Good morning. This is August 14, 2020, and speaker is Engineer Suraj Singh, International Professional Engineer, India, Chartered Engineer India, Fellow Officers of India. Regarding this screen share of one practical report of soil investigation, because I am talking of soil investigation from practical viewpoint, not exactly from theoretical viewpoint. I have an opportunity to go through certain reports of soil investigation. That is very important part of engineering, very important part of our life, without which engineers cannot decide anything. These investigations are not so easy as we think, but also not very difficult, we can say. We can move with them. This is very old report and it gives considerable information. This is geotechnical investigation for some project. I'm not interested in that, but what I'm interested is that this is report from overseas and by one professional laboratory, material testing laboratory. Its contents, let us see what contents are, because if you understand contents of these reports, we can get immediate glimpse of what is all about. It says that introduction wise can say purpose of study. What purposes of study? Then scope of work. After that is project description. You can say project description and site description, prevailing conditions, general geology of area, field exploration and testing, and then comes to field exploration and testing, that includes drilling, which includes sampling from boreholes, field testing in boreholes, then excavation of trial pits, which sampling from trial pits, field testing in trial pits, field density test, and there is soil electrical resistivity testing, soil electrical resistivity testing, and field soil thermal resistivity testing. Laboratory testing, then laboratory tests and cores, and in surface and subsurface conditions, ground, subsurface, surface and surface conditions, ground materials, materials physical and mechanical and thermal properties, materials chemical properties, and sulfate content, chloride content, other chemical contents, oil and grease and hydrocarbons, pH value. And then you continue on all this groundwater and cavities, then general discussion for choice of suitable foundation, which is very important one, footing on sand, general consideration of settlement, consideration of bearing capacity, choice of type of foundations, and conclusions and recommendations. And then we say in these conclusions, recommendations, foundation depth and type, tank foundations and hydrostatic testing, allowable bearing pressure, foundation settlement, soil design parameters, foundation subject to vibrations, general consideration in designing dynamic base, subgrade evaluation and pavement consideration, objectives, method of this sub-evaluation, subgrade evaluation and pavement consideration, then objectives of that, method of analysis, subgrade properties, recommended type of pavement and general consideration. Earth pressure parameters, site preparation, clearing and grabbing, cut and fill, side slopes, protection and monitoring, earth dikes and berms, drainage, dewatering, excavation method and excavatability and excavation, side slopes and oblique or lateral support system, and then backfill material and compaction criteria, structural fill, general fill, and borrow sources, soil resistivity and corrosivity, foundation concrete, tectonics of southeast region of Arabian Peninsula, seismicity and earthquake area of Southeast Asia of Arabian Peninsula. Ground shaking and free field ground acceleration, liquefaction, densification, liquefaction, densification, collapse potential, swelling and shrinkage potential, inspection during foundation excavation, and then some notes. List of figures is major faults in southeast region of Arabian Peninsula. This is geotechnical seismicity affecting southeastern region of Arabian, etc., etc. Earthquake area in southeast region of Arabian Peninsula, and average values of maximum acceleration in rock. List of tables attached with existing ground level, plant coordinates, UTM coordinates, and depth of all boreholes. Existing ground level, plant coordinates, UTM coordinates, and excavated depth of trial pits. Proposed foundation level, foundation type, and allowable bearing pressure. Representative compression, wave and shear wave velocities, and summary of CBR and modified Proctor, earth pressure and soil parameter, soil corrosivity versus resistivity, and of course later on we have appendix A, appendix B, C, appendix D. There are these appendices, and this says appendix A, location of borehole and trial pits, appendix B, logs of boring and trial pits, in which legend to logs of boring and trial pits, logs of boring, logs of trial pits, generalized subsurface profile, and appendix C is field testing results, field density test results, soil electivity test results, soil thermal resistivity test results, standard penetration test results, and laboratory test results, grading curves, atomic limits, and soil classification, moisture content test results, moisture density relationship test results, CBR test results, laboratory permeability test results, laboratory thermal resistivity test results, oil and grease test results, chemical test results for soil and ground water. This is an index in 4 pages. Means this index, just a revision of index again. You can see it's a long index because the report is long. This report is about more than 200 pages, and this is table of contents, and you can say, or you can see yourself now that in introduction, what is there in project description, site description, prevailing condition, general geology of area. These are very general. After introduction, project description, site description, prevailing conditions, general geology of area, field exploration testing, drilling, extraction of trial pits, and then soil electroresistivity testing, field soil thermal testing, and laboratory testing codes, and then surface and subsurface conditions, which is very technical one. Is ground materials, material physical, mechanical, and thermal properties, materials chemical properties, sulfate contents, chloride contents, other chemical contents, oil and gas hydrocarbons, pH value, etc., etc. So this a general discussion for choice and etc. All these conclusions and recommendations. Then all this is about its contents, and we have to do a lot work and patience for this if you want to get this something here. And this kind of study, you can say it's a case study. I can say this is not report submission. You are just as an engineer studying what this soil investigation is all about. Now, irrespective of that, what is that project is. Now we see every project has some purpose, some objective, some scope. In this case, what's purpose of the study? We know very clearly what's purpose of the study is, and that is purpose of study. Purpose of study is to determine surface and subsurface conditions at proposed project, and physical, mechanical, and chemical properties of investigated ground in order to provide structural engineer with sufficient information for design of most suitable and safe foundations. The scope of work consists of following, which is a very important point, because every engineer you have to give this scope of work, very, very important. It's the engineer who is responsible for a project. is his duty is to provide what investigation is required if you are hiring some laboratory for this purpose. Laboratory is approved laboratory, approved by you as well as approved by state. That professional laboratory which you are going to elect for this purpose, what scope of work that laboratory must be explained to you in writing. The scope of work consists of the following, for example, collecting information and maps particular to sites such as public services, site plan and land use maps. This comes under, you can say, geographical information, mapping, you can say, making inspection visits to site to collect information about present land use, surface topography, geological features and surface drainage. These are very important points here. We are going to see, as I said before, number one is collecting information and maps particular to site such as public services, site plan and land use maps, making inspection visits to site to collect information about present land use, surface topography, geological features and surface drainage. Then 3, drilling total of 28, 28 days decided. You can decide your way. It may be 28, it may be 30, it may be 50, it may be up to you. As much as accuracy you want, it depends upon that. Drilling total 28 number boreholes in situ testing and sampling of disturbed and undisturbed samples. 4 is excavation of 3 trial pits. 5 is carrying out 14 numbers field density tests, and 6 is carrying out 18 numbers electrical resistivity tests with 0.75 meters, 1.5 meters, 2.25 meters, 3 meters and 4.5 meters spacing, which is nothing but, you can say, 0.75, 0.750, like this. You place with 75, so 150, and there are too many points, and 300, and then so S spacing actually from one point to the point is 75 centimeter, 0.75 meter. Now carrying out 6 numbers field thermal resistive tests, carrying out physical, mechanical, thermal and chemical laboratory testing as follows. In soil samples, let's say particle size analysis, which are important, and particularly this is in granular soils. It's just very, very important. Particle size analysis and particle size analysis, I say the materials passing number 200 sieve, material passing number 200 sieve, and moisture content, active book limits and modified Proctor, California bearing ratio CBR, laboratory thermal resistivity, permeability, and chemical analysis including determination of chloride content, sulfate content, pH, calcium carbonate and magnesium, oil and grease, and petroleum hydrocarbons. We read the general condition, you can say a kind of full range, you may say a kind of full range test that is not particular capability, particular parameter, no, but completely including chemical tests. So once again, particle size analysis, material passing 200 sieve, moisture content, active book limits, modified Proctor, California bearing ratio, lab thermal resistivity, permeability, chemical analysis including determination of chloride content, sulfate content, pH, calcium carbonate and magnesium, oil and grease, and petroleum hydrocarbons. Now in groundwater, this was on soil. Now in groundwater, this is groundwater, chemical analysis including determination of chloride content, sulfate content, pH and magnesium, oil and grease, and petroleum hydrocarbons. And performing engineering analysis of field and laboratory findings, and developing conclusions and recommendations for design and construction reporting. So this is, you can say, what documentation is required for this case is all this, that you have to provide this report, and that you have to do all this. Not you can say on the job, or you go outside and scold someone and come back. We have to involve with complete technical part. Now, project description, leave it, because this is not very much important for us, because leave it now. Only kind we can know means this is like plant. It's a plant project with 2 trains, identical trains, and whatever it is. So come on now, site description. Why I am showing you this report is that we have to understand what is professional work done in soil engineering and soil explorations. It's not that we go and just give a 4 or 5 page reports, 10 page reports is done. We have to understand various patterns according to international bodies, international. You have also Okay, now we do one thing, site description. I was just thinking of how to best explain this. When our site is in Arab, leave it how far it is. Now it says site says divided into 2 parts. In area of existing plant, area is mostly covered by dune sand and partially with silty sand. That's called fill. Site includes a storage area at location of borehole 19. Site area immediately adjacent to existing plant area was generally flat. Remaining area was generally irregular in topography. Overall maximum level difference between investigated points is about 6 meters. Area of the borehole BH18 is 11 meters lower than highest area in site borehole 10. Now in part 2, this is building area. Investigated boreholes 52 and 53 numbers are here, not necessary for us, are located within fenced area, including existing fire station and existing. Then you can say in this case, when these 2 building areas and 2 boreholes are generally at same level, no faults or whatever other special geological features were observed at these sites. A general site plan showing boreholes and trial pit locations at project area is a close image. We will see appendix A later. Now, let us know what are prevailing weather conditions. We should make it a part of the report, because this is international issue. It's not national alone. So, sites situated wherever there is not hot in climate, a hot arid climate is 1, where evaporation exceeds some precipitation. A hot arid climate is 1, where evaporation exceeds precipitation, such as rain and dewfall. This climate design produces characteristic hard desert terrains. Average annual rainfall may only be a few centimeters, even only few millimeters in some parts, which usually occurs seasonally and sometimes only from a single cloud burst. Summer shade temperatures are frequently in excess of 40 degrees Celsius, and humidities may be around 100%. Okay, humidity is 100% near cost, and humidities may be around 100% near not cost, the spelling is wrong, don't worry, seriously. Contrast between maximum night and day temperature, and between night and day humidities is often great. Strong persistent winds are normal in many areas. This unfavorable climate imposes adverse conditions on concrete structures such as high temperature and high seasonal changes. Okay, now let's go to high temperature and high seasonal changes, high humidity and high changes in relative humidity, strong winds, say high temperature and high seasonal changes, high humidity and high change in relevant humidity, strong dry winds and condensation at night, wind-borne salt-laden dust, high solar radiation. So these are very important factors. We have to say high temperature and seasonal changes. It's very important from many points of view. Then because humidity is high and relative humidity is high, and winds and condensation at night and wind-borne salt laden, so high solar radiations. All this is a flat report. All this must be. Now, general geology of area. Everywhere where it is right up, you must have geology. Must to understand geology of the area before conducting soil investigation on that. It's very important from every point of view. That's what is required by an engineer to understand very well what should be done, what should not be done. We cannot simply say you go and start. If it's a big project, you have to chart out a plan like that. It's not a small project, because maybe cost of soil investing not that much, but its implications on project are being high. Now general geology, for example, we say geology of area, and let us say now there was someone who developed a geomorphological model, division of mountain, predominant plan of Arabian Peninsula and Fuchs and Nell, 1969. And they did it in Gulf area and 4 sediment deposition zones. Coastline of UAE forms zone 4, base plain, which is mostly Pleistocene or distant in age. This Pleistocene and distant in age. This Pleistocene is geological, I must say, geology is a science that this safety. Then we say and that coastline of UAE is from zone, etc., and then superficial deposits of this zone consist mainly of sand dunes, loess and evaporates together with marine sand and shells. Principal transporting agents of environment is wind and evaporates. Agents of environment being wind and evaporates, and rare sheet flows in some valleys. Rare sheet flows in valley. That's what it says. And okay, rare sheet flows in valley, and Principal transport agents, environments, wind evaporation, rare sheets, flows in some valleys. At coastal area, marine agencies help sorting wind-blown materials and extensive deposits of bioplastic, bioplastic sand. Now, now salty coastal subcast, it's called subcast, as which is salty coastal area, which is contains salt coastal area, are common and they form a large part of coastline. Although windblown materials tend to predominate, windblown materials tend to predominate, very great quantities of dust, silt, and sand are moved during period of high wind water. Plays an important role in containing this phenomenon. Flash floods are relatively rare, and whatever meandering stream actually reaching coastal plain is usually short-lived after downpour. Then flash floods are relatively rare, and meandering stream actually reaching coastal plain is usually short-lived after downpour. But standing water table, which may be quite near to ground surface, influences desert processes, as this zone usually represents base level down to which wind erosion takes place. Wind erosion more or less stops when sand and silts are damp. Capillary moisture movement from shallow water table to ground surface readily occurs, enhanced by continual evaporation mechanism. In these conditions, a thick salt crust can build up from continual precipitation of salts. Dissolved in groundwater, even if they are in very weak dilution. Crystals of these salts are also blown by wind and can contaminate dunes and other parts of desert surface. Capillary moisture movement depends on many factors, but it can be up to 3 to 4 meters. Capillary moisture movement, which depends on many factors, but it can be up to 3 meter to 4 meter above water table in fine sands. These deposits are common in desert coastal region and particularly extensive around this coast line. Coastal safety deposits are known as SAFCA, as indicated above. Superficial deposits overlie interbedded sandstones, gypsiferous mudstone, siltstone, gypsum. So we can get some water before we go further, because firstly, this report is for person. We have to understand this report to understand soil, because what we can understand from practical work, we cannot understand from theory and books. So let us say superficial deposits overlie intermediate sandstones. Superficial deposits overlie intermediate sandstones, gypsiferous mudstones, siltstones, mudstones, gypsum limestones, calcisiltites, siltstones, and conglomerates. Now field exploration, what you have to do, that's the point here. We have to think on, and then we have to decide. It's professionalism means what should be done to meet the scope of work. That's what field exploration is about. Means it's question of time. You have to consider quantum of work. You have to consider, and of course, irrelevant investigation is not required. Only relevant investigation which can help us is required. That's main point here. And now it says field exploration. Number one, is a drilling. Now drilling is very important point because we have boreholes. So during period from whatever limit, it was 2028 boreholes were drilled at project site area. Boreholes are numbered BH1 through BH26, BH52 and BH53. Okay, fine. Existing ground levels, plant coordinates and drill depths of all boreholes are presented in table number 1. Okay, just for information, this is existing ground level, plant coordinates, drilled depths for all boreholes. Plant coordinates, I think you understand very well, and drilled depths for all. Okay, now borehole, this column is, then plant coordinates, easting and northing as required is, existing ground level and drill depths. Generally they are giving plant coordinates. Actually nowadays nobody gives plant, but doesn't matter. It was in those days, but they changed now these two, interactive coordinates. They changed those coordinates and put their contact coordinates, you may call them whatever. Now BH1 to this 22 and then number 23 to 53 are there, which you can see that plant coordinate easting and northing are given. I will not speak that, this is clear, means there is no use of speaking those ones. These are actual site locations, you can say, of this borehole, where this borehole is. It's located on this easting and on this northing, that we can take by GPS system. Then existing ground level is in meters, and that's at 131.69. And then drill depth for this is 20 for this 3, 1, 2 and 3. This is drill depth. This information, then you see BH4, 5 and 6. And these are coordinates for them, and these are 132. This level, 3 levels are there. This is reduced levels, you can say. Existing ground levels, which are also called reduced levels. And actual levels is from fixed point, whatever. And then drill depth is there 10, 20 and 100. And then we say, then BH7, 8, occupancy 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So you can say in this case we have taken BH7 to 18, means 12 number boreholes here. So these are details of these boreholes, all these boreholes here to here, and this starts here, number 7. Then say these levels are there, and there is 20 meter 1 depth, and then this number 19, which is this coordinates and 134.42 and 20 and 21 and 22, 21, 22. So these are 3, which is 3. These are coordinates and levels, and this is depth. Then borehole 23, 4, 5, 6, 7, 20, 52 and 53, and this is the row of that, and the existing levels is given problem, and this is depth of this. So this is one major information that is over. Alright. Levels are related to at the local national Abu Dhabi data meters. So borehole locations were determined. Okay, leave it. Only image department. Rotary drilling was executed by Hydrac and Pilcon. Type layers. Borehole logs. Actually, I was making another video. There was some failure on that video, so I thought, let me start this because it has already crossed 3 hours. I wanted to make it 4-5 hours, but okay, I start 1 hour for this. Maybe I work up to 8 o'clock on this, and then I attach this with that video, and next time also, because this will take maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 videos for this. I can't go more than 1 hour in this. So maybe I make another one during daytime, possibly. This just you can say first supporting video for soil mechanics, soil investigation, soil explorations. Now it says borehole locations are given by client and rotary drilling was executed by whose company Pilcon Technology. Now borehole logs detailing reference number of boreholes, and you can say borehole logs detailing reference numbers of boreholes. We call lithosphere from the lithological description. You must know that earth lithological wise when you know it's because lithosphere is the solid part of earth. It's not earth. Earth includes air also. So lithosphere we call it. So it's part of earth, and that's why I use lithosphere. So lithological description of materials encountered with depth, structural details of each layer, method of drilling, results of in situ testing, depth and elevation of borehole and depth of groundwater table are presented in long lots of boring appendixes. Samples for boreholes. Samples for boreholes. Samples for boreholes. Say, now disturbed split spoon samples were obtained from boreholes. Disturbed samples using a split barrel tube sampler were obtained where SPT was performed in soil. Undisturbed samples, rock samples, were not possible to be obtained since bedrock level was not reached in whatever drilled boreholes. Samples recovered were immediately examined, described, classified, identified, and coded by ACES geotechnical engineer, placed in waterproof plastic bags, and taken to ACES laboratories or for testing. Now we can say again, samples recovered were immaturely examined, described, classified, identified, coded by a technical engineer, placed in waterproof plastic bags and taken to laboratory for testing and storages on same day as soon as drilling of boreholes were completed. All samples were Also, it was protected against weather conditions until they had been transported to laboratory. For testing, care was taken during handling, packing, transporting, and things of small. Right now, samples of product come against all moisture content, and also, if you take care was taken during handling, packing, transporting, and storing of samples to protect them against all moisture contents. Now, field testing in boreholes. Field testing in boreholes standard penetration test SPT were performed. SPTs were performed at different depths in all boreholes to obtain approximate consistencies and relative densities of ground materials. Tests were performed in accordance with BS 1377, Part 9, 1990, Amendment 826-495, determination of penetration resistance using a split barrel sampler SPT. Then test results are shown on logs of boring at depths of test. Standard penetration test is defined in legend to boring logs attached in Appendix B, Section B2, in division of the now test results are shown necessarily. Now, boring at the depths of test, standard penetration is defined in legend to bring the boring logs at test in Appendix B. Interpretation of test results are also given in legend. Excavation of trial pits. This is normal. We do excavation of trial pits. Now, excavation of trial pits, very important point though it is. Now, during period whatever 9 days, 3 trial pits were manually excavated. Pits were excavated to a depth of 1.5 meter below existing ground surface, except TP6, which was excavated to 2.5 meter. Just blowing little more. So okay, so you can see better now. Okay, I'll rewind all before. During period of TP6, which was excavated 2.5 meters, locations of trial pits were proposed by alright now. Locations are shown. This existing ground level coordinates and excavation depths for all trial pits are summarized in table 2. And this is table 2. Let us say existing ground level and plant coordinates and excavated depth of trial pits. TPN, plant coordinates easting, northern, and existing ground levels is excavation depth is this. So TP3, 4 and 5, easting, westing are there, easting is all this there, and the difference is existing ground level, then excavation depth is this, is what it shows on the phenomenon. Let us say then for example 130.13 and excavation depth for these two is 1.5 and for this is, because this is higher than this. So this is one levels are in there. Alright, now further that, they will start the sampling from trial bits, sampling from trial bits. Okay. Let me relax 1 minute. You can read by the time this one, no problem. Ah, well, you should not be so, this file I kept with me for long. Also, this file is I put somewhere in drive.live.com, live.com, put there if you want to download this file. It's available and on this my in my this you can say URL is given, all URL are given on video text. If you wish to download this file, all there are 4 files related to soil investigation. This is big one. There are smaller files also, which are also very important, and you can download those files right here. Now sampling from trial pits. Representative bulk samples were obtained at every change of data from each trial pit throughout excavated depth. These samples were placed in waterproof plastic bags, labeled and taken to laboratories for further observations. These samples were placed in waterproof plastic bags, labeled and taken to laboratories for the examination and testing. Following tests are performed on selected samples: natural moisture content, grain size analysis, percentage fines passing seal number 200, Atlas limits, moisture density, expensive. And then you can say fine, grain size, moisture content, grain size, natural moisture content, grain size analysis, percentage fine passing seal number 200, attributes limit, moisture density, relationship, modified CVR. Now let's say what's the sampling is there. We have gone through this, and moisture. Say once again I say natural moisture content, grain size analysis, percentage fine passing through seal number 2, attribute limits, moisture density, relationship, modified CBR, thermal resistivity, and chemical test. All our test results are presented in after next week. Trial pit logs including P1 in situ density, modified proctor, and CBR tests are presented in the Alright, so we can say trial pit logs including PI in situ density, modified proctor, and CBR are presented in appendix D. We'll see later on, not now. Field testing in trial pits, that's important. Field testing in trial pits, and says all sides and bottom of each pit were thoroughly examined and described by a geotechnical engineer. Soil testing was adjusted according to HTMB 487 after completion of laboratory testing. In situ density test was performed in each trial pit every 0.5 meter interval as shown in trial pits. Logs appendix B, section B3. sides and bottom of each pit were thoroughly examined and described by geotechnical engineer as according to ASTM D2488. Soil classification was adjusted according to ASTM D2487 after completion of laboratory testing. In situ density tests were performed. And you can say after completion of laboratory test, each density test was performed in each trial pit every 0.5 meter interval as shown in So in situ tests were performed each trial pit every 0.5 meter interval as shown trial pits in logs. Appendix B, section 3, field density test. Field density test. A total of 14 number in situ density tests were carried out within site area every half meter depth in trial pits and 1 meter depth in area of BH57 and 4022. Test results are summarized in table C11 section C1 appendix C. Test was carried out in accordance with ASTM D 15560. Density and unit weight of soil is increased. Now let's see what to do with that. I want to see whether my scaling goes off or not. Well, okay. So these are tests performed. Test was carried out in accordance. This is a total of 14 in situ density tests were carried out of site area after there. So these results are over here. Test was carried out because ASTM D1556 density and unit weight of soil is placed by sand cone method. And then this was trial pits and the sand cone methods. This was in, you can say, soil electrical resistivity testing. It's very important. Soil engineers may not care for this, but it's not your requirement, caring, not caring, but it's necessary. Required, and that's all. It's not a very big test, but we'll do it. Soil electrical resistivity testing. 18 sets of electrical resistivity testing were conducted at site at selected boreholes and trial pits locations. Each set of readings consists of 5 readings at different spacings between electrodes 0.75, 1.5, 2.25, 3, and 4.5 meters. Now soil resistivity testing, 18 number of electrical resistivity tests are conducted at site at selected boreholes and tip trial pits. Trial pits locations, each of range 5 readings at different spacings. Now electrical electrodes is 0.75 meter, 1.5 meter, 0.75 meter, 1.5 meter, 2.25 meter, 3 meters, and 4.5 meter interval. Spacing in 2 directions. So these are conducted there at usual spacing in 2 directions perpendicular to each other, and you can say here that Test was carried out according to STMD G57951 standard method for field measurements of soil resistivity using Weiner 4 electrode method. Portable Mega DT 504D digital test was used. Test results are presented in tables like this. Field soil resistivity test. Field soil resistivity test. This is a total of six number thermal resistivity tests using field thermal model were carried out at location of B3, B8, B40, 15, 17, base 24, base 25, 1 meter depth. Field necessity was penetrated into soil and measurement of resistance of thermometer. The thermostat sounds thermistor in probe. Then you can say six number is field needle test. Needle were penetrated into soil and measurement of resistance of thermistor and probe was recorded using DMM digital multimeter attached to thermistor point in front panel of power supply unit. Soil thermal resistivity was determined depending on temperature difference in time interval. Temperature difference in time intervals. Temperature of probe during test was calculated using temperature resistance relation taking into considerations all field analysis. Now you can say soil thermal resistivity are determined depending on temperature difference. Temperature of probe during test was calculated using thermal temperature resistance relation taking into account field needle characteristics needles. Test was carried out according to IEEE standard 442/1981 IEEE guide for soil. Now we go a little more. Let me repeat this. It says soil thermal resistivity was determined depending on temperature difference and time intervals. That's most important point. Temperature difference and time intervals. We have to relate to difference of time and difference in temperature. Temperature of probe during test was calculated using temperature resistance relation taking into consideration field needle of character is constants. Test was carried out according to II standard for 42/1981 II 442/1981. Now you can say test was carried out. Test questions are present appendix C. Water. Why water? Alright, laboratory testing. I have some minutes only. Laboratory testing. Actually, how many hours are gone? Let me see. This is taken off. It's taken off 1 hour. Okay. So I will not take much in this because it's already 1 hour. Laboratory testing here. Laboratory testing in order to determine physical, mechanical, thermal and chemical properties of ground materials. Laboratory tests were performed on selected samples from boreholes, trial pits and from existing surface. Laboratory test results are presented here. Now appendix D, you'll see. Now what are laboratory tests we are doing? Laboratory tests, moisture content according to ASTM-D 221698, laboratory determination of water moisture content of soil and rock. Grain size analysis according to ASTM-D 4226398, particle size analysis of soil. Now minus number, this is minus number 200, minus number 200 C according to ASTM-D 114000, amount of material in soils finer than number 200 or 75 micrometers saved at above limits of soil according to ASTM-D 4302. Then you can say what's that? Hold on, that's it. At limits of soil according to ASTM-D 4318, the liquid limits of plastic limits, plastic index of soil, and modified proctor according to ASTM-D 155700, laboratory compaction characteristics of soil using modified method with 6,000 feet per feet cube, 2700 or 20,700 kilometer meters per meter cube. That's the unit for moisture density relation. And then California varying ratio, CBR according to California varying ratio according to ASTM-D 1883. So you can say California ratio CBR according to ASTM 1883-99, CBR California ratio of laboratory compacted soil. Lab permeability according to ASTM 243494, permeability of granular soils constant head, and soil thermal resistivity according to IE standard 442-1981, IEE guide for soil thermal resistivity measurements, and water soluble sulfate content of soil according to BS 1377 parts 1990 amendment 9028-96, and determination of sulfate content of soil cross 5355, and water soluble chloride content of soil. You can say soil thermal resistivity according to this we have said. Now this is IE standard 442-1981, IE guide for soil thermal resistivity measurements and water soluble sulfate contents of soil according to PS 1377 parts 1990 amendment 9028-96, determination of third sulfate content of soil using Okay, now we'll see that this is water soluble sulfate content of soil according to BS 1377 part 1990 amendment 80 902896, determination of sulfate content of soil, clauses 5355, and then water soluble chlorides content of soil uh, according to BS 1377 part 3 1990 amendment 902898, determination of chloride content, clause 72. Now this is just 11 pages covered. I will just like to show you a few more because there are so many. Just like calcium carbonate content of soil according to BS 1377 part 3 1990 amendment 902896, definition of carbonate content, clause 63, and magnesium of soil according to stadium D 5118 9398, calcium and magnesium soil, and oil and grease and petroleum hydrocarbons in soil according to APHE 20 edition. You can say pH value according to PS of this and then you can say here, I mean to say pH value according to BS 1377 PA part 3 1990 M 9028 96, test 9, determination of pH value, classification of soils for engineering purposes according to ASTM 248798, classification of soil for engineering purposes, and description of soils according to ASTM 248893, description of and identification of soils visual manual procedures. I'll stop here now because I think I'll take tomorrow only page 18. Codes are these. There's a list of codes maybe. Let's see which codes are these. BS 59309-1999, Code of Practice for Site Investigation. In-house computer facilities were used for calculation and analysis of test results. All laboratory test results are presented in Appendix D, and then we have to see surface and surface conditions. That's page 19. I will hold on here because it's just the start of this. I'll hold on here. I think that we can make it later. I understand that you people. This is a different kind of presentation, a reference presentation, where we think we can move in a different direction just to have certain kind of case study that we never did before practically, and that's very important. I'll just rewind this just for you can just want to see what we have gone through this. You can say just gradually I'm going through that. So we have gone through all this for your reference. All pages I'm retrieving back for your reference so that you may have just an ideological understanding. I'm not saying this is perfect file, but just to understand something we must refer to something, because this is a kind of referral resource done by those people who are well experienced and have attained level of expertise in the field of soil investigation and research, I can call it, because they do research work on this, and that's where we have to depend on them for this one. With this I can say I should close this right. It's better one if I close this and I say, then you can say let's go to this one, close this one here. This is here, and line video, line video, and here channel line video is then I will now stop sharing. I can say stop sharing. There's nothing there. What I mean to say is that we understand what's happening, what's not happening. That's the point where you should understand this. I try to get this information back again and again, and I hope I should help you people. What about this? I'm not sure this part will be recorded or not because this is document sharing, so that's fine. This file is about more than web pages. I like to discuss this in details, and it may be, it may not be, I cannot say, but it should be here, and I think it should be here like this. I just putting my here so that you can say identification is a must, and it's there for everything, and this I would like to close this here with this one and take up again. I think on average about 1 hour or 1.5 hours daily, or whenever it's practical. This is number one. Will take like that attachable videos 1, 2, 3 or 4 as possible, or as practical, I can say. And particularly to those engineers who are interested in this, they can benefit from this. I understand that in addition to academical study of soil engineering, foundation as we have been doing, we have gone through with bearing capacities and N values, how to rate N values, and how to modify the bearing capacities, and how to do value of bearing, safe bearing capacity, like that. We've gone through that, and we continue on this also, and according then contracts also. Actually, I cannot do contracts. I do contracts as also sometime. This is actually I cannot go in main video. That's not possible. It's not possible to go into main video due to some technical problems on Facebook. So I'll have to arrange separate video for this. Maybe you can say half an hour, 2 hours a year and 2 hours a year. Like that we will do. With this I can say thank you very much, and I close it now. Thanks.